Andy, we are elder statesmen of YouTube. In the 1900s, me and a guy named Joe Bungert started this company called Random Billy Digital Media when the internet was new, and we were doing graphic design and web design and stuff. This is embarrassing. I helped like a cam girl / boy company do their galleries. But then after the army was over and after I was healed up, I went to massage therapy school and got my massage therapy license. And then I started a pedicab company in Orlando. That was my first real company with an LLC and all that stuff.
At what point were you racing cars?
That started in the pandemic. That's also when I kicked off my professional photography career too.
I know you've done screen printing.
This is some screen printing equipment back here. I just fired that back up to make some t-shirts for Microvision, which we'll be talking about in a little bit.
But since I've been doing my whole...
If you're still 196 at this moment, we are the same weight.
I am not. I've actually shed 6 pounds. I'm 190 right now.
Well,
yes.
Lean Andy.
Hey friends, I'm Andy. Thanks for tuning in to my podcast. On this episode, I have my friend, Nicholas Johnson, who runs the YouTube channel Space Design Warehouse, and also the very creatively named YouTube channel, Nicholas James Johnson. Nicholas, across 2 channels, covers everything from Bitcoin mining, immersion cooling, his best and worst financial mistakes, his ongoing coverage of the stock Microvision, photography, and photo gear, and that's just the stuff he covers right now. In the past, he's covered twice as many topics. But we're also going to get into his past that's led him to where he is today, and some of those stories are crazy. So, hello, Nicky boy, and welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Andy. This is the Space Warehouse. I'm in the Space Warehouse. A lot of times I'm remote.
Are you designing the Space Warehouse right now?
I have made some designs today, yeah. Actually, so I didn't know what your background would look like, and so I went with blue on camera 1. But just in case you had a purple color, I wanted to match.
I do often. I did not today. Anybody listening to the audio version of this, you will just have to picture it in your mind's eye. I feel like it's maybe based... So I knew these things already, but just looking back at your channel from oldest to newest... I am reminded just how many things you've gotten into. I feel like you need to change your YouTube channel to Nicholas, Jack of all trades, Johnson, the YouTube channel.
Well, we're taking it back starting a couple months from now, a couple weeks from now, a month from now.
Yes.
I'm going to get back to my YouTube roots, and I'm going to start doing more stuff.
I like that. So this is your second time on the podcast. Welcome back.
Well, thank you.
Do you recall what we were doing the last time you were on the podcast?
I know where we were. I don't remember what we were doing. I know that I had snuck off from a work trip to go hang out in your house.
Yes. We just got back from West Texas, deep West Texas.
Oh yeah, deep Texas.
We were dirty.
We went to a steakhouse where people were wearing hats and boots.
Yes. An actual Texas. Well, it was in Texas. Yes. West Texas. I just said that. And we were literally dirty, covered in dust and grime from being on an oil rig site.
That's right.
With Bitcoin miners.
Yep. Check it out.
Which is, I think, maybe you would agree with this, but both of the videos I have done on that topic with you are some of my favorite and some of the videos I'm the most proud of, and also ones that have done the worst.
Those were, that especially the one where it starts out with we're both walking at Wavra holding the camera.
Oh,
that was my favorite, one of my favorite projects that I've done.
It is indeed. So let's jump in a time machine here, Nicholas. Ooh. Let's go back as far back as you want to go. Like the double camera angles. This one's got the one you cut to on your desk has the box over it.
I realize that has I left the...
Yeah,
and it's backwards on my screen. I'm not sure if all the words are backwards on your screen.
Good times. Your production. This is my podcast, but your production is far greater than mine. So
I don't know. I'm trying to distract everyone from my personality by using all of these lights and cameras.
So, walk me back in time. You were in the military. Yes.
Yeah, I was in the Army. Actually, check it out. I've got one of those Army guy tattoos. This here. I was in the 82nd Airborne.
I didn't know you had those. I knew about the one on the back of
All-American.
your neck, but I didn't know about those.
Yeah. So I was also an Iron Man. I've done an Iron Man a couple times.
Uh-huh.
And this is actually a drum set that kind of got old enough that you can't see it. And I have a drum set set up right over there, but I don't have a, oh, sure I do. Sure I have a way to look at that. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, look at how messy the warehouse is.
This is a
This
true
is a
behind
disaster.
the scenes.
Yeah, this is a great way to illustrate how photographers professionally just tell lies. That's all we
Yep.
do, because this looks all right. This looks pretty nice. Even though really, I guess you can see a lot of clutter. Never mind.
And we'll dive into all that in just a second. But first, a word from this podcast sponsor, Relay. If you're like me, then you're either a small business owner or you would like to start your own business one day. And when you do that, you're going to need a banking solution that's truly built just for your business. That means no fees, no minimum balances, and no bookkeeping problems when tax season rolls around, because why would you want to make tax season even less fun? That's where Relay comes in. Relay is an online banking and money management platform that's a perfect fit for small businesses, and one I recommend. Again, Relay has no account fees, no overdraft fees, and no minimum balances, which means you get to keep more in your pocket. One of my favorite features is that you can get up to 20 individual accounts, including 2 savings accounts, to organize and allocate income for things like day-to-day expenses, investments, or taxes. You can now earn up to 3% APY on savings with Relay savings accounts. You can create virtual and physical debit cards for you and your employees in seconds. And best of all, Relay makes your bookkeeping speedy and meticulous by giving you ultra-detailed transaction data and directly syncing it back to QuickBooks Online and Xero. And so many more amazing features I don't have time to tell you about here. Really, they do a lot. It only takes 10 minutes to apply for a free Relay account, and you can do it online at relayfi.com/yourfriendandy. Again, that is relayfi.com/yourfriendandy. Okay, let's jump into this episode. And we're back. Once upon a time, I used to pride myself in being able to take, claiming that I could take beautiful portraits just about anywhere. Could be like in an alley with dumpsters and stuff in the background, but you shoot at the right angle, or you do the right thing, or you put a long enough lens on.
Yeah, you get a long enough lens, you're just going to see this little black and blue fuzz back there to look quite nice.
Things will vanish. So military, why did you go into the military, and what did you do?
Oh, geez, what a good question. I don't exactly know really why I joined the military. I was watching a lot of news. And so I had a little bit of the, like, I need to be a real American thing going on. And it was post 9/11. It was like 2003 when I joined, but 2002 when I thought about it. And then also I knew I wanted to go to college like forever. And if you go into the Army, they do that for free. And so it was kind of I don't know, but I ended up going into the 82nd Airborne by choice, which was I didn't want to go kill people. That was not like, front of my mind for joining the Army. But the 82nd Airborne is the most deployed unit in the Army. And so I went and became a paratrooper, jumping out of planes. I was in the 313th Military Intelligence Battalion of the 82nd Airborne Division.
So
I was an intelligence guy.
So why did you, what attracted you to doing the 82nd if they're the most deployed of them all?
Nope, I don't. Well, I wanted to be a paratrooper. I thought that would be exciting and fun. And like, you get more training, so you get to learn more stuff, and you get to go like better places and higher up in the thing. But that means that the 82nd Airborne is the only active paratrooper unit there is until they added another one in Alaska. This was back in 2004 or whatever. And so I didn't know that part. I didn't know that I was going to be just automatically deployed immediately. But it turns out I wasn't. So I was in military intelligence, which was a really long training schedule. So I was training for over a year, and then we were getting ready to deploy to Afghanistan after I got to my unit in Fort Bragg in the 82nd. And then we were doing some nighttime insertion jump. So we were super low. It was in the middle of the night and you couldn't see anything. And I jumped out of this plane and my parachute came out of the bag. So it was up above me, but it did not inflate all the way. It's called a cigar roll. My parachute was basically in like a roll up over my head, which slowed me down enough to not die, but did not slow me down enough to not break my ankle, my knee, my hip, and my back all at once. To make
So-
it a little worse, you don't have, it's like a whole, the way that works, you have to get back to a meeting point and you don't have another way there. There's no roads. We were like, training to go to the desert. So I had to Terminator crawl, who knows, I don't know how long, probably for an hour to get back to the meeting place where the people are screaming at me because I was late and I didn't bring my parachute with me because it was too heavy. And so I got yelled at while I was laying there with a broken back.
So how long from you, which, I mean, this is why I wanted you to tell the story, because I can't imagine what it's like to, one, jump out of an airplane without your parachute opening and then crash into the ground and break a bunch of things, including your back. And then, because it's, nighttime, radio silent discipline or whatever, having to then, with just your arms, crawl through the forest or wherever you are back to
My
home
left
base.
leg worked.
Okay, you used your left. Okay, I'm so sorry. It must have been so easy then. You had your left leg as well.
I just thought that I broke my leg. I didn't think it was I didn't think I was in danger, but apparently I was in pretty significant danger of being paralyzed.
Yeah.
So my L3, L4 spine, or whatever, the disc between those two spinal columns had my L4 broke, and it had it cracked, but set itself back into place, luckily. And then I had a crushed disc or whatever you call it between those two vertebrae, it turned out. Then I was in the Army, so I was connected to Womack Air Force Base or whatever, which is the premium surgeons. I had this experimental surgery done. I don't even know if nobody's ever talked. I don't know if I can even talk about this, but whatever, 15 years went by. They had me laid down on a table with a live MRI or a live X-ray, probably an X-ray. They had, I had eaten a bunch of the weird stuff that they can see your fluids going through your body. And they were poking needles in my spine, and they would use one kind of fluid to make inflammation happen in my soft tissue, and then one kind of fluid to reduce inflammation in my soft tissue. And they essentially made a cast out of my own whatever's back there. So they did not have to do surgery, because the other option was to fuse your spine together, and then you have no mobility and everything's terrible. They were trying this thing out, and then they basically put me back in my barracks, and I was on bed rest for a month, and it fixed. It got completely better. They just
That's wild. So experimental surgery, and you're back to somewhat normal these days?
As far as I know, all of my aches and pains are from being 40, not from having a broke back.
So was there shock, or how did you get past the pain to drag yourself back to base?
Every time I've been severely injured, which has been a few times now. Actually, I don't know if it shows up on camera. I have a big scar that goes the whole distance of my hand. I chopped my hand in half on a powered paraglider. When you have a fan on your back, and then you have a parachute over your head and you can just fly. What a wonderful thing to do.
You'd think after the first thing, you would be parachutes, I'm done with that. But no, gotta get on a paraglider.
That was a person's fault, not the parachute's fault. Whoever packed that thing made an error.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, this paraglider thing, I was launching off the ground, and some gust of wind picked me up, threw me onto my back, and I tried to brace my fall. And my hand hit the propeller. Oof. And it ripped my hand in half. I thought I lost this half of my hand, but really it was folded back onto my own hand. But that time, and when I broke my back, and a time when I was a kid, I had someone step through this hand with a golf cleat. We were playing some game where I was laying on the ground on accident. Somebody stepped on my hand or whatever. All three of these super major injuries, I felt practically nothing. It's totally numb right away. Either that's shock, or that's just your body being a bro and letting you get out of the situation or whatever. Which brings me to my best friend, Bill Morrison. If he sees his own blood, passes out. It's some kind of we looked it up. It's some kind of genetic thing.
So what you've discovered is that you have some form of a superpower.
I have, I can get severely injured and just truck it just fine. Because I wasn't scared. Because I didn't know I broke my back. I just thought I broke my leg. And that didn't seem all things considered, didn't seem like the worst thing in the world after having fallen out of a plane, essentially. And so I wasn't like in shock and like freaking out. I was just like, I'm going to be late. This sucks. This hurts. And then crawl forever.
So once you actually got there and they, commenced the yelling stuff, like,
Yeah.
did they just continue even though you're still on the ground crawling, or did it eventually they let up and realize that actually something was really wrong
pretty
here?
quick. Yeah, pretty quick. They realized that I wasn't just like, just like laying down or like tired or whatever. Yeah, they grabbed me. They put me in I don't remember. This was a really long time ago. Also, this was like 2005 because I'm
Almost 20
very
years
old.
ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
Oh
not
my God.
very old. You're not that much older than me. Don't make me feel old too.
Andy, we are elder statesmen of YouTube. I'm not sure if you're aware.
We are getting there.
I got a lot, like, this light doesn't highlight it that much, thank goodness, but I have like these 2 white patches on my hair, which I'm gonna grow out. I'm gonna get crazy man hair. I'm gonna get like, not like the guy from Ancient Aliens, but I'm gonna get some pretty cool hair.
Ancient Aliens. Now that I would love to see on your head.
The like,
So, okay. So you did all that craziness happened. And then simultaneously, is that, or was it after when you started the education, when you started doing some engineering? Is that right?
right. Engineering was my second degree. First, I started with math. That's funny. So yeah, no, I actually did start because I was injured for a while, and then while I was like getting, what do you call it, separated from the Army from that injury because I wasn't going to get better fast enough to like finish up my contract or whatever. And so during that time, I started going to college, and then I just kept going to college. I went to college forever. I went to college from 2006, I guess, basically until I moved. I started working with my wife's company in I started with them in 2014, but I think I got in like 8 years of college before I finally left. But anyway, yes, I went to school for engineering and math and exercise science.
Very nice. What type of engineering?
Mechanical engineering.
Mechanical. That's
How
right.
stuff works.
And so at what point in all that, I'm assuming most of this is after the Army, like when did you get this little entrepreneurial bug? I mean, I know maybe you didn't start like a full-on company. Well, you did actually, but you've done so many side hustles and side ventures over the years. I'm just curious, like when that started or why.
The Army was my only like real job, I guess, pretty much. So even before that, way before all that, in the 1900s, me and a guy named Joe Bungert started this company called Random Billy Digital Media when the internet was new, and we were doing graphic design and web design and stuff. Literally in like 1998. And I went to school for computer stuff first. Like straight out of high school, I went to school for was it graphic design? Like graphic design and web design. They called it a different thing. Communication arts, I think they called it, because the world was new. We carried clubs and lived in, lit with fire and all that stuff.
There was no iPhone yet. Yes.
There was no cell phone yet. I guess cell phones were there, but nobody had them. What a weird way to live your life. No GPS. I don't know how we found anything. We had CB radios in our car in high school so that we could like find each other after school.
In the 90s, we started being blessed by the Nokia bricks, but they were pretty rare for people to have them. Yes. Yeah.
My best friend Billy worked at a cell phone store or a pager store.
Nice.
And I got one of those Nokia, I think 7700 or 70 whatever 100 candy bar phones. But yeah, so first company was that. Stuff happened. That didn't work that well. I actually did a little bit of, this is embarrassing. I helped like a cam girl / boy company do their galleries, but I didn't want to look at it all because it was like a lot of stuff I didn't want to look at. And it was like, I would set up the JPEGs in like a blank web thing and then just feed it the file. Anyway, funny. But then after the Army was over and after I was healed up, I went to massage therapy school and got my massage therapy license. And so I am technically, my license is expired, but I'm a certified massage therapist also. And then I started a pedicab company in Orlando. That was my first like real company with an LLC and all that stuff. I had like 6 employees. We'd go downtown every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday and give bicycle rides. That actually, my God, that made like the most out of anything for the first like couple of years. It was Yeah, it was like it was 2007 leading up into the 2008 financial crisis when everybody was just throwing money around. And I made like $90,000 that year on a bicycle just giving people rides downtown. It was hilarious.
So how long did you do pedicabbing?
I think I started that pretty much right out of the Army or pretty soon after the Army. And I did that up until like 2009. I didn't do it I bought my first house in 2010 and I did not have that anymore then. So I did that for like 3 years.
What was the name of the company?
I think it was just Downtown Rickshaw. It was pretty generic.
When did you start? I know you've done screen printing. I know you also have owned a running race company.
This is some screen printing equipment back here. I just fired that back up to make some t-shirts for Microvision, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. Yeah, so screen printing, the t-shirt company came out of the race company. Sarah and I and a guy named Josh started up a marathon in the woods. We owned a thing called Masters of All Terrain. You could probably still look that up on Facebook. It's fairly recent. That ran from like 2012 all the way up until the pandemic. Our last race got canceled from the pandemic. I still have 1,000 t-shirts that never got given out because the race got canceled. But because of that, we decided we're looking for ways to save money and we were figuring out stuff. We started our own timing company that spun off of that. So we would do race timing for 5Ks, like neighborhood 5Ks around Orlando and Central Florida. And then I started printing my own t-shirts, and that is a money printer. That if you have like a salesperson, which something I need to figure out, it blank t-shirts like you're actually wearing the same kind that I usually buy. The next level tees are like $5 and you can sell them for like $20 and you can make them in bulk in like 20 seconds. And so every 20 seconds you can fire out $15, which is a heck of a business if you got business rolling in. But I never managed to really like put a lot of work into setting it up to where I had like a salesperson and a person to answer phones and stuff. So I would just casually do that on the side because I was doing too many other things also.
So
trying to go to college for 100 years.
Yeah. How many of these like ventures were you running all at the same time?
The last time I was in college, I had switched my major away from mechanical engineering because I was doing engineering and math at the same time. And it was like, that took up like all of my time. And I had switched to exercise science, which is kind of like this weird version of like bioengineering. So it's like how the body works, like how this muscle pulls this arm forward and where the attachment points are on all of your joints and everything and what nutrition is and what it does and stuff like that. And so I was going to college full time while running the race company, which only did 4 races a year, but it was kind of a lot to set it all up and like do the social media for it and all that. And then we did a timing company that was like maybe 2 weekends a month. And then we did the t-shirt printing company, which was pretty much just me doing it. So, and then I did occasionally on the side, I was still doing massage therapy, like in the beginning of that, because that's also another, like, I don't know, you get paid an unfair amount for the amount of work that it takes to do it. But that got icky, and that got icky in a weird way because I started working at this like kind of fancy spa thing, and these old ladies they're a little handsy and they're a little leany, and then they're a little like they want to imply that they're going to give you their phone number. It's pretty funny. Anyway, so I guess 4.
So you missed out on some extra money there on that hustle.
Oh yeah, I've made a career out of missing out on extra money.
At what point were you racing cars?
That started in the pandemic. As soon as the pandemic started, that's also when I kicked off like my professional photography career too. So I started following around. My buddy Joe owns a race car team. What a weird thing. What a lucky childhood friend that I made. And so I started hanging out, but then I started like driving his car on test days, and I was as fast as his driver. So I started driving his cars on race days. And then I started taking pictures of other teams, like, cause we did these endurance races that were like 16 hours long. So you'd switch drivers every 2 hours. So there'd be like 6 hours between driving, and you can only eat so many hot dogs. And so I started taking my camera around, taking pictures, and everybody wanted it. And so then I started spending a ton of money on better camera gear and taking better pictures. And so I started doing that more. And then people wanted to pay a lot for that, as I think you're okay saying that now. Mm-hmm. And then I started racing less, and then I stopped racing. So I started racing in 2020. I probably only raced 2 seasons, 2 years of that, and started taking pictures.
So did you have
the next hustle.
Any training with the racing whatsoever, or you just hop in a car and you just figured it out?
I mean, I guess the only training I had is that I grew up in Minnesota and with a rear-wheel drive stick shift car. And so it's icy like 8 months out of the year there. And so you're just constantly learning how to lose control and handle that. So no, I have no formal race training. We did take some like little race training weekend things, but that isn't enough to get good. It's really a lot of instinct and stuff like that. And like feeling out the car. I feel like my engineering had a lot to do with like, I know when you're about to break something, or I just have a good, understanding of how everything's working. You did a little real race car driving. You took your own car out.
In college, I did some track days and stuff. Yeah.
What a good time.
It was super fun. I was pretty good at it. I would, in my college angst, I would get up behind other people, and because when I was first starting, they wouldn't let you overtake as much as later to earn your right up to, to get in the class where they would let you do overtakes and stuff. But I get so frustrated because people in front of me would be so slow. And they'd be even in more powerful cars, but they just, I guess, were not comfortable. But I had a blast, and something I naturally took to, but I haven't done it since college.
It doesn't have to be over. Joey actually rents seats at a different race series called Champ Car, where it's like more fun than competitive, even though it's still really competitive. But we could go race some race cars.
Nick and Andy show.
Ooh.
We go racing. We catalog and vlog the entire experience.
We'll bring a third person to catalog and vlog, or take a lot of B-roll, and maybe a fourth person. That's a good idea. Let's put that down on the list.
So, listening to all this, like, clearly this is a lot of stuff. And we probably missed stuff too that you've been in.
Oh yeah, so the races are all over the country. They're not there's one in Florida at Sebring, but we raced at Road Atlanta, we raced in New York, we raced at Road America, which is in Wisconsin. And so I started this U-ship business where I had a big truck and a big trailer, like a 30-foot trailer, and I would take people's motorcycles and four-wheelers and stuff across the country on my way to these races. So I'd make money on the drive, I'd make money shooting pictures, and then I'd go race cars. And that's how I rode out the pandemic. So that was some of the best time. I know people were dying all over the place, so it wasn't like a really good time, but it was like, I had a great pandemic.
I will echo the same sentiments. I thought 2020 was one of my best years. It made me realize that my photo business was not something I wanted to do anymore, and it also reminded me that it's not as I thought recession proof. People are always going to get married, so I can always photograph whatever. But I didn't see pandemic coming, so all of a sudden all of our business vanished overnight. But all of a sudden I had this time to finally do this thing, which I've been thinking about forever. And
shortly after I started doing this thing.
Yeah, and 2020 led us into the last bull run in crypto and stuff. And so a lot of nice, great things happened in my life. So I look back on 2020 with quite a bit of fondness, but I know a lot of people do not.
It's how I met you.
Yes. Did we meet in 2020?
Without the pandemic. No, we probably met in 2021 when I started to rise from my crypto video making.
Yes. But all that to say, all these things, U-ship, racing, screen printing, rickshaws, continuing on and on. I joked about it at the beginning of the podcast, but I really do see you as a jack of all trades, as a Renaissance man.
Ooh, I like that.
But that's how I see myself. That's one of the reasons I think we've been friends, because I like to. It's fun to like figure a bunch of things out and be pretty, if not just passable, pretty good at a bunch of different things. And like life is a whole lot less boring when you do that. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that phenomenon.
It's nuts when I think about stuff, because so now I also work for this company that does lighting for art fairs. And so I go to New York like 11 times a year. We go to LA, we go to Miami, we just got a new one in Austin starting up next spring. So I'll be coming to see you, dragging you along for one of those things.
Yes.
But each one of these venues that I go to, it's the same guys that I see, because they just have some job where they clock in at that building and they like sit in a tiny little office and whatever they do, they go do that thing. And it's nuts when like 4 or 5 years goes by and I've done, like you're saying, I've just done all these different things, and I go back to that place and it's still that same guy sitting in that office, just sitting at his computer. And that just boggles my mind how someone can just do Like their life consists of like one room and then a commute to that room, some kind of food, and then going to bed. And that is, I could never do it. I could never do it. And I could never retire. I could never stop working ever.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And when I was looking through, I knew a few of these things, but when I was looking through your channel again, I was reminded of some of them. But, it's not just all the stuff we talked about. It's, looking at your channel, of course, you've done, the photography and stuff, but you've also distilled essential oils. You've made DIY concrete furniture and planters. You've done scientific presentations. And then, of course, talked about crypto and everything else we have covered on this so far.
It's too bad it's about YouTube, because I love making these videos. I love doing YouTube. I love being on YouTube. I love the process of making everything as much as anything. But like, if I am a Renaissance man on my channel, I will never grow out of anything. I'll get a tiny little audience for one thing, for watching concrete furniture get made, but then they'll get shown my photography video and they'll click away, and that'll ruin the algorithm for the YouTube. So unless I want to start 9 YouTube channels, I have to just talk about one thing, which leads me to my next segue. I have been talking about crypto now for I guess 2 years, but unfortunately crypto sort of died. It didn't really die, but crypto's asleep for the time being. And therefore, so is my channel. I was growing 1,000, 2,000 people a month of subscribers, and then it just flattened out. Now it's 200 people a month, which would take 10 years to even double in size. And that's crazy. That's silly. So I'm going to sort of, I've been talking to you about it even for 6 months, I think, but I'm going to start steering the ship a little bits at a time away from crypto and towards I have this idea of sort of a Bill Nye the Science Guy character, because I'm old anyway, and I want to do sort of educational but sciencey but fun but demonstration, so stuff's actually happening and camera angles are changing, and oh damn, that was supposed to be more smooth. I switched my buttons. I don't know what I'm doing. I have a new machine. And I don't know how to work it. It's a little switchy thing. Sometimes you have to push the button twice. Sometimes you only have to push it once. I don't know why. I don't know why my camera settings show up on camera 3. That's dumb. Anyway, I want to sort of I feel like a shift needs to happen where I'm going to talk about science.
I like that. I support mad scientist Nicholas channel pivot. It's funny you say that. We don't need to get into this right now because I don't really want to talk about this. I got too many interesting things to talk to you about, but it's funny you say that because I'm actually considering talking more about crypto than I'm currently talking on the channel, making a shift back towards it. But yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying, and it is a very interesting time to talk about those things on YouTube, because I looked at Google Trends this week, and cryptocurrency as a search topic and term is at its all-time low from the past 24 months right now.
Do you have a feeling it's coming back? Is that why you're gonna?
I do, but I also think I can put a spin on it when it's not, where it's not so nitty gritty nerdy, and I can spin it in a way that I'm still talking about something I'm excited about, but I can talk about it in a way that gets even casual interest people involved, people who just care about making money online. So I think I can be that person. And we've got make money online people on YouTube who don't talk about crypto at all. And then we've got crypto people who are lost in the weeds. Money.
Yeah.
And I guess there's chart people and this coin, but I'm talking about the type of stuff I'm interested in, mining and passive income nodes and stuff. I love a lot of those channels, but they get, super in the weeds, this cable, this thing. And I think I can be one of the people on YouTube who bridges those two worlds and makes it a bit more accessible and friendly, but we'll see what happens.
I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. I think that in Q2 of 2024, I'll probably steer back towards crypto, because that's my new dart on the board for when stuff's going to start to happen. And I don't think anything's going to happen between now and then. And so I don't think anybody's going to search for crypto stuff. And I don't think you and DJ Minds are going to dig out of your holes until a year from now.
We'll see.
8 months from now.
Challenge accepted, Nicholas.
Yeah.
So before I do want to talk about a few more things crypto related, but before we dig into that, I do want to take a step back on the side hustle, back on the Renaissance man, back on the 1,000 different interest topic. I am curious, of all the things you have learned or you've jumped into, I'm curious which ones are the ones that were your favorite kind of skills to learn. But then two, I'm really curious, like if right now you decided I want to make as much money as possible, which one or two of those would you like lean on immediately?
Surprisingly, screen printing, I really enjoy the process of screen printing because not a lot of people know how that whole thing goes, I don't think, but it involves like printing out films and exposing emulsion onto these silk screens. And there's a whole like real like hands-on sciencey thing where you have to like shoot a bright light at it for a certain amount of seconds for it to happen properly. And then you have to clear the screen. And then it's a lot of like dirty ink, but making really sharp, clear designs. It just feels really satisfying. And like I said earlier, you can make money really fast if you were to like make it your only thing you do. I think my favorite thing is making money with my camera. I think taking pictures is my favorite thing to do. But I don't think that's the easiest way to make the most money immediately, unless you like have infinite free time and you can just devote your life to that and someone else is going to pay your bills until it works. Screen printing, again, I think would be if I need to like if I'm in trouble and I need to like get my hands on $20,000 in 3 months, I think that I would start putting a ton of money into Google ads and become a full-time screen printer. But what I intend to do instead is focus more on YouTube and try to grow this thing, because that gets to combine all of my interests, like photography, camera stuff in general, and make. I just love making videos. I like editing. I know you have an editor, but I like to do it.
Hello, Greg, my editor.
Hey, Greg.
I do not like editing at all. I'm very happy to pay someone to do it for me.
I mean, I feel like I would be happy to pay someone to do it just so that I could pump out a video every 2 days. But I like the process. When I feel like I have time, I like to do it. I've made a couple of reels, and I've literally made like 4 reels in my entire life. But the last couple, I've been doing this "you're in the Harambe timeline" nonsense that I come up with like 8 minutes before I start to film it. But editing super short things where like I can put like a whole hour into something that's like 12 seconds long, which I would not do an hour per 12 seconds of a long video, obviously. But it's really satisfying. It's really nice. Although I don't like this vertical video trend, and I'm sure that's just because I'm old and new things are scary. But I don't like editing vertical video. It's so weird to frame stuff up.
It's not going anywhere, Nicholas. I'm sorry to say.
It's going to die out?
No, I'm saying it's not going anywhere.
It's not going away.
Yeah, yeah. It's here to stay. For those listening to the audio-only version, Nicholas just hissed into his microphone. So, okay, let's get back to crypto. Why did you start talking about crypto on your channel in the first place?
Why did I start talking about crypto on my channel in the first place? I was talking about concrete DIY and cameras, and like I literally had like a glass set of beakers that I was distilling fucking flowers into, like a little vial of liquid this big. I was unsuccessful at that, actually. And if you watch that whole video, it blew up in my she shed in my backyard. I didn't make, but I always watched Biahaza, this like young guy who does drop shipping videos. He kills it. Lucky guy. Hardworking guy. He made a video about, he called it a Bitcoin miner, but it turns out he made an Ethereum rig, basically. And
I think he was mining on nice hash, so he was getting paid out in Bitcoin, so he called it loosey-goosey.
Yeah. Common misunderstanding.
Yes.
Totally fine. Biahaza, I know you're watching this. Totally fine. Everyone can make that same mistake when they're new.
Big fan. Thanks for watching the podcast.
Big fan. I appreciate all of your work and your help, because you got me into this crypto thing. So I made one because it looked like fun, and why did I have so much extra money? When was that? That was 2020. We had such a good year in 2020. I had a ton of money and I couldn't do anything. We were just sitting at home unless I was going to race car stuff. And so I started buying up 3080s at the worst time. I was paying like $1,800 per card for those things. And it was fun. Like I wasn't even doing it to make videos, but it was like, it got more complicated. And then, you built some of those, it's a whole thing. And so I started taking videos of it. And then I learned about immersion cooling from, where did I find out about that?
I
It was
do.
completely unrelated. It was like immersion cooling for like EV batteries or something.
As
But
a
they talked about
person,
how you can.
as the person who has the world record of the fastest GPU mining rig assembly in the official Space Design Warehouse games, I do know my way around a GPU mining rig. Yes.
God, the warehouse games is what I would like to make my full-time job, if we're honest. I just want to make different iterations of that stupid thing.
That
That
was
was so
fun.
fun.
So yeah, that was actually my follow question. Is I'm curious what got you into immersion, or maybe even an easier entry to that is I'm curious how you went from I'm going to buy some 3080s and mine Ethereum or whatever to I now like Bitcoin mining.
Right. Bitcoin mining. Well, the Bitcoin mining thing came about because I was mining with 3080s and everyone started mumbling already about the proof of stake changeover. And I was like, well, I just found this money printer. I don't want to stop. And so then ASICs were the future. ASICs were going to keep going. So then I looked at ASICs and my God, they were $10,000 a piece for those things. I started buying them on China. Immersion, I can't remember how I came about immersion cooling. I do know that like my third most popular video on my whole channel is the first time I made one, and it was like in a fish tank. I did a immersion cool to 3080 by itself, like on a riser, just dunked it in a fish tank. I had these tiny little radiators that it totally worked. I had a really hot garage and it totally worked. And it was, I don't want to say it was addicting or whatever, but it was so satisfying to do it. Even though I had that thing running and I went out of town to go to a thing, and I came back and my entire floor was totally coated in BitCool because BitCool eats through plastic, and I had done it in a fish tank and it found its way. Yeah. So then I don't know. Then I wanted to keep that alive. So I bought like one S19 and then I bought an L3 plus plus, and I was going to buy an L7. Kind of wish I would have. I think that would have worked out, but those were like $20,000 back then. That was so dumb. God, that whole thing was so dumb. I spent so much money.
I'm assuming most people listening to this know all these things you're talking about, but for those who don't, really quick, an ASIC is just a very specific crypto mining computer. It's a box that uses a lot of power, makes a lot of heat and a lot of noise, and it only mines something very specifically. In the case of what Nicholas was just talking about, S19, that is, it mines Bitcoin, and that's it. It makes a lot of computational power just to do that. He's currently holding one if you're watching the video.
Here's an ASIC. It doesn't have a screen. It doesn't have a keyboard. You just turn it on. And voila, it knows who you are.
And immersion cooling is when you take that whole big thing and you dunk it in some oil that doesn't conduct electricity but is pretty efficient at moving heat, and you pump it around and to cool it. It's this whole crazy thing, and Nicholas has done this at length on his channel, and he looks like a mad scientist while he's doing it because it goes everywhere.
So I guess I started steering my channel towards crypto because the first two videos I made about Ethereum mining and then about having an ASIC at all, because the ASIC has a lot of problem solving if you're trying to do it, A, in a hot place, I live in Florida, or B, at home, because you have to find 240 volts, which is only on your dryer or on your stove, or in the case of my warehouse, you have to get into the service box and like hardwire it. And so there's a lot of problem solving. That seemed like an interesting thing to make a video about. And like every other, like you were saying, everybody's so technical about things about crypto that like if some regular person was going to watch like what is a Bitcoin miner, they would still not understand after watching a whole bunch of Red Panda mining videos. Mm-hmm. And so I started making some like really basic ones, and they did really well. And so I made less DIY concrete structures and more mining. And then I just got into it more. And so I built my own immersion thing because engineering degree, I wanted to like flex on it. And then I got to know the guys, that's how that all happened. I had made that Ethereum mining immersion cooling video, and the people at engineeredfluids.com had seen it. And they reached out to me and asked if they could sponsor a video about doing an ASIC miner. And they gave me a tank and they gave me a bunch of fluid so that I could, because that cost, the tank by itself was like $4,000 and the fluid's another couple $1,000s. And so it's just prohibitively expensive to do it on your own. So they helped me start doing that. I built like 4 iterations of it before I got it to work properly. I heated my swimming pool with one of them. That was pretty cool. And
that's the name of the last time you were on the podcast. Meet the man who heats his pool with Bitcoin miners.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if that was running still back then.
I don't think it.
Now they sit on a shelf because my electrical cost went up to 14 cents per kilowatt hour and I can't afford it. But I still need to make videos about it occasionally.
Time to chat with one of our friends about that. I'm curious, obviously there's the money making aspect, but what else is it about maybe Bitcoin mining specifically or crypto mining in general that fascinated you?
There are two things in my life that I don't understand why I like. Efficiency for no reason at all. Like I drive a Fiat 500 because I love to I know that I'm getting the most out of my gas. I don't even care about the money. I have plenty of money to buy gas. I used to also have an F250, also just both, but I love efficiency and I love solving technical problems. So I like something to be possible, but hard and then do it. I guess that's just my personality. Yeah. So both of those things are, if you're going to run your ASIC right, you're going to make it run really efficient because it's built a certain way because the chips vary so much in their quality that it just runs one way, but you can make it run like 40% more efficient, the same exact machine just by hacking into the firmware and playing with the voltage and the clock speed and stuff. And that's really interesting to me. And yeah, and then obviously solving problems, like you have this thing that's really loud and you have this thing that's really hot and you're going to put it where you live. And some people just run them that way. These psychopaths. Don't do that. Watch my videos. Use one of those AC Infinity fans. But I found a way to make it go quiet. I found a bigger fan that'll make it quiet and then ducting the air outside and pulling new air from a different spot outside. It's just, I really like to problem solve. That's my professional job too. I have a salaried job, but the hours I work are so weird. I work actually I'm technically at a show right now. So we're doing the show at the Javits called the Armory Show. It's the biggest art fair in New York City all year. There's 500 booths at this giant convention center. But the way union labor works with carpenters unions is on a holiday weekend, they charge double time, not just overtime. And base time is $130 an hour per guy. And we need 200 guys. And so it was prohibitively expensive. I've already used that phrase once. It was too expensive, Greg, use that second one, to have all these guys. So we have a dark weekend. And so I'm in New York right now, but I flew back home to talk to Andy on the internet. And then I'm going to fly back to New York on Monday. Why was I saying all that? Oh, I have a regular job. I have a regular job where I'll work for 12 or 14 straight days for 12 or 14 hours a day. But then I'll come home here and I'll have 2 or 3 weeks off to myself, which makes a YouTube career. It's a really great job to have if you want to be a YouTube guy. Not to mention I am the keeper of this very large warehouse with a whole lot of space and nobody to bother me. Oh, I changed the camera angle, but it didn't hit it twice. The button turned green. It didn't go.
I'm very glad that you flew back just to be on the podcast.
It was just for this. That's not true, but I did spend an hour and a half setting up all this because this was an empty room because I had brought all my cameras to New York. I was going to film another Harambe timeline video that I didn't get to. But my job is solving problems. That was the point I was getting towards, viewer and listener. My job is I'm just the guy that's ready, and then something will go wrong, and I will figure it out. I don't know. I don't have a specialty. It's just everything. It has to be, if it's computer related, or if it's someone's projector needs to connect to this old ass computer related, or if someone comes from Tokyo and they need 210 volts for their art piece and related, I have to solve every problem. And sometimes I get coffee.
All that, and sometimes he gets coffee. So on the topic of crypto, maybe the answer is nothing, but given where we are in the market, where you are in headspace wise with crypto, but I am curious, what are you the most excited about when it comes to crypto right now?
I am only excited about Bitcoin. I just, for the first time, took all my Ethereum out and cashed it out and put it into Microvision yesterday.
I thought you were going to say Bitcoin. I was yes, but no.
Nope. I had to stop myself. I had my finger on the trigger on my Trust wallet to take out a bunch of Bitcoin because I have a really, really strong itch right now. Something's about to happen in the world of LiDAR, which we can talk about in a minute. But Bitcoin, I'm only thinking about Bitcoin. There is probably some little mineable GPU coin that's going to 1000x what was that last one that did that Noxia or whatever that you guys were all
Neoxa.
talking about,
Mm-hmm.
which I bought some of, and I honestly don't even know what wallet it's sitting in. It's probably going to go back down before I find it and get rid of it. But no, Bitcoin. So I'm sure you know, I'm sure anyone who has interest in Bitcoin knows the ETF that BlackRock is trying to push through is probably going to happen. The timeline is probably going to line up strangely like we're living in a simulation with the Bitcoin halving. And those two things are going to multiply on each other in a crazy way. And the public's going to pour in right as the, whatever you call that, the demand curve goes upward.
The
supply curve
Bitcoin
goes
ETF
flat.
is going to be one of those watershed events in the world of Bitcoin and crypto for sure.
Yeah. But the timing of it, like if they were to say it's cool and they're going to go through like what they're probably doing right now, all the paperwork or whatever, because they tried, they got denied, they had to go back and do a thing, but they are going to redo it, or they already redid it. And I guess it takes about 7 months for it to finish. And so it's going to finish like about April. It's going to finish at about the time when the halving happens.
Yep. The stars could be aligning, folks. But that's just the world of Bitcoin. Maybe the stars are aligning in a different world. And so let's change gears here in our electric cars that are controlled by LiDAR. And
The stars have aligned. I'm being pulled to the side by the gravitational waves of those stars.
So before we get into the specifics of like why or whatever, first, how much money have you invested into Microvision?
That's embarrassing. I sold a rental house that I owned in order to get into it. I put, I think, $60,000 in at that time. Then I sold some land that I was holding on to because it had gone way up in value after the pandemic. I don't know what that was all about. Put another $50,000 in then, and then I sold my truck just recently for another like 12 grand to put it in there. And I've just been like tossing a coin to my Witcher every month whenever I have some extra money here and there. I don't actually know my average. I don't know how much I've put in because I keep moving exchanges around. I started on Robinhood and then I switched to Webull. And when I switched over, it just like moved the money at the price that it was at, and it reset my average as if my average was that price. So I don't know, but I think somewhere in the neighborhood of like $150,000 into Microvision.
And are you currently up, down, or neutral on
I'm
your...
down about $100,000 at the moment. That's not true. I'm down from as much as I've ever had in there. Probably. No, that's not true either. Yeah. No. I'm down. I'm down maybe 60 grand.
Are you down that amount from the money you've put in? Or are you down that amount from where its all-time high for you was?
I'm down that amount in cash that I have put into this idea. My all-time high, I think I saw like $300,000 for a hot second. Would have been a good time to just take a little. I want to make it clear that this is not just blind faith, that I'm just like betting on a stock the way you do. I have gone to extraordinary lengths researching Microvision to the point where I've met the CEO, I've met the CFO, I've met them both multiple times. I've been out to the headquarters in Redmond, Washington, where they are for this special investor meeting thing, and I've ridden in their test car and seen the technology work with my own eyes. It's like I couldn't know more about a thing. Well, more is to be known about the thing, but I know as much as a retail investor can know about that company.
You can just do all your stuff and then jump back in. I'm not in a rush to get you back on the mic.
You know, I kind of like a little behind the scenes action in the world of the internet. So I think we should just keep this on going. You were saying, oh, look at that angle. You were saying,
so, okay. You put in all this money.
Yeah.
So before, okay, we know how much money you put in. We know kind of what your current standing is. What, if you can distill it down, what is the core idea of why you're doing this with your money?
Okay, so in the beginning, I figured I wanted to invest in stocks, but I wanted to do it in individual stocks. I didn't want to like just get 10% per year forever and be rich the smart way. I wanted to look at what is probably going to exist, but doesn't exist yet. And so like look for the future companies that should do well And for a while, I was looking at lithium battery recycling because all these the first generation of electric cars are about to start being bad, and someone's going to have to do something with those batteries. You want to reclaim that lithium because that's the juice. And so I was trying to find the company that would be the one that's going to start to recycle all those batteries. I actually did find one that had set up shop next to a Tesla Gigafactory, and apparently they were trying to work together. Luckily, I didn't put very much money into that company because I can't even find them anymore. They're called Liquid Metal or something like that. Then I decided I was going to look for like the charging network, or like who's going to own, other than the Tesla chargers, who's going to own the like 5 billion electric car chargers that will be ubiquitous in 10 years or whatever. It was hard to pin that down. And then my friend Nick Kreider, who goes by Dang 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 Man 123 on Reddit, found this company that is making LiDAR, and found that a bunch of the big companies like Ford and VW and Audi and everybody says that in 2026, they intend to have LiDAR as part of their safety feature. So LiDAR is this module that shoots laser beams in front of the car, but like a matrix of laser beams such that it comes back with a picture. And this particular company can do that 10 million points of data per second with a refresh rate of 30 frames per second, which is the highest in the industry. All the stuff, blah, blah, blah. But lasers basically, so every single point that comes back, it looks like a picture, but every single point has perfect laser accurate range finding, like distance. So if a kid runs out in front of your car 200 meters ahead, your car knows exactly like to what degree it has to swerve to go around the kid or slam on the brakes or whatever. And like the things like the lane assist or like the smart, I don't know if you've driven a new car, but when you put cruise control on, you don't have to take it off ever. If a car slows down in front of you, your car just slows down because right now they use radar to find out how far in front of you that car is, but LiDAR is more accurate and more precise. And so basically all these big companies have said already, it's like very public, like LiDAR will be coming into the 2026, 2027 models of cars. And so my friend Nick and I were doing this research trying to figure out like, what does that mean as far as like, when would the technology have to exist for that to like, because you don't build a car the same year that you release it, you start engineering that car, turns out 3.5 years ahead of time. So for 2027, the deals have to be made like now, like before Christmas. And there are basically like 6 really big LiDAR companies. And I looked at all of them. I got a media pass for CES last year, and I talked to all of the companies. I looked at their hardware, looked at all the specs, talked to all the people, saw who they're working with and everything. And I chose my horse. And really, I think all of those companies are probably going to win, or probably 5 out of the 6 are going to do well. One's just going to do better than everybody else. So I started following Microvision. I started learning about what they are. The reason I chose Microvision over the other ones is because they have the smallest form factor for their LiDAR unit, which people want because they're going to want to put it like behind the rearview mirror of the car and not have a bump on the top of the car, which Luminar will cause. And they have the highest refresh rate. They run on the lowest amount of power. They're going to build their own ASIC, which I understand what that is now, which like does most of the processing on board, so it can send to the computer a finished like 3D environment. The computer doesn't have to do all the stuff. Like Tesla computers are like, it's like 3 3080s worth of processing power. So that thing has to be liquid cooled, and like it sucks down a ton of power. And Elon insists that cameras are the way, but we all think that he's probably going to go LiDAR 8 years from now, just because he's wrong. Anyway, so LiDAR's coming. I picked my LiDAR horse, and now it's basically the time. Like I'm either going to be right or wrong within 6 months.
So what I think is so interesting about this is, one, I love and I respect the conviction. As someone who has gone pretty whole hog in the world of crypto with, especially on Bitcoin for me, I can appreciate that. But 2, I think, a lot of people on the surface would hear a lot of the things you've said. I sold a house, I sold some land, I put all this money into this thing. This guy, irresponsible, whatever, he's crazy, he's going to lose all his money. And
to be fair, it was a spare house. I didn't sell the house I lived in.
Yeah. But the reality is, that they could be right. You could be wrong, and it could just all go down to nothing. However, I think the part that most people miss, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about, is the fact that you're not a Reddit user who's in Wall Street Bets who goes, "Oh, neat sounding company. I'm going to toss all my life savings at this thing because I have a hunch." You you've gone to these, conventions, you've gone to these meet and greets with the people at the company, you've spent all these countless hours. So yeah, it might turn out you're wrong one day, but you
Oh
will
yeah.
not have gone in blind or not knowledgeable in the space, right?
Yeah. Well, and I'm fully aware also that the best thing doesn't necessarily win.
Yeah.
Like the best band is not Green Day, but in 1997 they sure were the most popular band.
Green Day is
Huh?
pretty awesome,
Huh?
though.
They're pretty awesome. I just mean like technically,
Yes.
you could pick up a guitar and learn that music easily. There are like technically way better musicians in the world. This happens in business too. Like it's not necessarily going to be the best specs that win this race. It might just be the guy that has like a brother that works at Ford and is one of the buyers for the future or whatever. And that could definitely bite me really hard.
Yeah, first mover advantage is largely a myth. Like there is some reality to being the first mover, but most of the time in history, it's not the first mover who ends up being the champion who owns the monopoly or whatever. It's someone else who iterated and did it better or did it differently or something like that.
Yeah. Well,
But-
and it's going to be, I think price is going to matter more than specs as far as like just a module that goes on a car. The actual manufacturer of the car probably isn't nearly as passionate about LiDAR as I am. So they don't really care that it's the best LiDAR. They just know they want LiDAR.
But, Microvision did not invent LiDAR. They're not the first LiDAR company in the world.
Right.
I mean, now, my example, there are exceptions, like Bitcoin. It is the first cryptocurrency of its kind. It wasn't, there was digital currencies in the 90s. They were very centralized. They were very, very different. Bitcoin is not technically the first digital currency, so it's not the first mover advantage taking over, but it is the first one that got the recipe right to where it is, where it is today. So maybe that's Microvision.
To Bitcoin, just for a second, I don't understand why there's such a separation, why there's like Bitcoin and then like every other crypto, no matter what. Even Ethereum, which everybody else still knows the name of, is like so tiny in comparison.
It has people in the world of stock investing talk about companies having moats. I'm sure you're familiar with that terminology.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, that moat is something like a couple patents they have, or a specific technology or feature, or they're first to market, or they're market leader, or something like that. But in the case of Bitcoin, I think the moat is, a lot of firsts and things like that, but it's mainly it has managed for whatever reason to stand the test of time. And it has the network effect and the adoption that none of the other ones have had. And it's just every year that it continues to exist, that gets bigger and that margin gets wider.
Do you want to update your bet that we made on Bitcoin 2025? How are you feeling about that number?
I can't honestly remember what that number was.
I think you said, no, I don't remember either. I have to go back and watch it. Either 100,000 or 500,000.
I mean, 2025, I believe it's going to be over six figures. We'll see. So this is another reason why I like talking to you, Nicholas, because we both have some crazy ideas that we put a lot of money behind. So I am curious, how do you respond to, I've had more than my, compared to the average person who does crazy things with their money, people like us have more than our fair share of criticism because we share these things in a very public avenue on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's very easy
to... if you research Microvision for any amount of time, you're going to see me before you see anybody else.
And you're going to watch a video from you a year ago saying, sold a house, bought Microvision, and you're going to see a litany of comments saying,
oh,
this didn't age well, you're so stupid, like how, great job throwing your money away. You should give me your money and I could have donated it, or I could manage it better than you.
Yeah.
I have a video on my channel called, why I hold $800,000 worth of Flux. Well, my Flux newsflash isn't worth $800,000 anymore. I get comments even today, people going, this sure aged well. You look like an idiot now. What's it worth today? $1? So I'm curious, someone who's in the same position in a lot of ways as I am, how do you view that? What do you think about those people? How do you view that? How do you handle that?
What do I think about those? I am surprised that people are with stocks. I can't believe people are like, you lost all your money. Like, I still own the stock. I still think the story's not over. Like, I was wrong for a year, but holy crap, I don't know, look at the long history of like Tesla or Apple or whatever. But no, I feel nothing. I feel I'm maybe a little bit of a sociopath when it comes to like comments. I respond to those, not all of them, but I love like chatting it up with all those people online. But I don't know. I'm so sure that I'm right and they're wrong that it's just like they look so silly to me when they're like, you've wasted your money. Like, well, I could have bought at a better time, sure, but you can't time the market like specifically. I didn't know there was going to be was it a pandemic after I bought? Yeah, I bought before the pandemic. How in the world am I supposed to know there was going to be a pandemic? I think I even sold my house before the pandemic. No, I didn't. I was on YouTube afterwards. Whatever. No, I'm not bothered. I feel like having a ton of haters is a great sign for the YouTube channel. That means like my reach is big enough that there's enough people that for whatever reason want to take the time to write something when they watch it. I like that. Plus, if you go back and look at, like, especially on Reddit, if you like pick one of those guys and look through his post history, all they do is just put people down forever. Mm-hmm. And if I lost all that money, my life wouldn't change at all. But if I'm right about it and I 10x that money, my life's going to change pretty dramatically. That's how I look at it, I guess. I have a fine job and then a set of side hustles where I make 6 figures and I live in a house that costs practically nothing. And so I have tons of spending money to throw at these stupid things, which I guess is something, and I say that on my channel a lot. Like if you got kids and you're just barely making it every month, do not throw your money into strong block nodes because you're probably going to lose it, but you might make a ton if you're right about it. Boy, was I wrong about that fucking thing. Technically, that's still in play too. That apparently they're working on a chain that they're going to release next year. I don't know. I am no longer a believer in strong block nodes. I do own a bunch of stronger, though.
I let all of my things expire or whatever. I haven't logged in or thought about that. And
I let all those things expire, but when it went down to $1, I bought like $400 worth of it, which in the past would have been $500,000 worth of stronger. Unbelievable.
So a couple thoughts here, and tell me if you agree with this. But when I see a lot of those comments from people, I see, I think, wow, these people are coming to my channel. They're in the comments, whatever. They're being super negative. But I have to feel like some part of it is like, is a part of them deep inside where they see someone taking risks, being brave, putting themselves out there. And maybe I'm totally off on this assessment, but they see that and then they wish they could do that themselves with the thing they believe in. Maybe they genuinely think, me buying Bitcoin or you buying MViz is totally, totally stupid. But maybe part of it is just they see us taking these big steps and they go, I wish I could do that. I can't ever do that, or I'm too scared to do that. So I'm going to attack this person who's doing it.
That makes sense. Like if I ever post anything with my wife in it, I get not a lot. There will be some number of people that like, you guys are just pretending to be happy. I know you fight at home or whatever. Like, I don't know where that came from. No, we don't. A, and B, I'll bet you fight at home a lot with your relationship that you wish you had got yourself into. Yep. But yeah, you're probably right. I'm sure it's a lot of envy and then taking risks.
And then two, on that topic, I feel like, honestly, maybe this is like Andy's an insane person and he's actually stupid when it comes to his intelligence, that he would think these things. But I see that and I go, that's confirmation that I'm on the right path. If a lot of people are telling me I'm on the wrong path, because I feel like most people go through life, with this mediocre outlook and mediocre life, and that's just all they ever want to achieve or whatever. And if I'm not doing what they're all telling me is the good thing to do, then great. I'm in a happy place right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I am an adult that lives with roommates and a wife because it makes me happy. I love having people around and I love not paying my own mortgage.
Yep. I also think, and tell me if this has ever been something that crosses your mind, but as someone who is intrigued by the idea of like getting ahead of most people, like accelerating my wealth accumulation and journey, I think to do those things, you have to do what's not popular. You have to do things. You have to be a contrarian. you have to be right. I made a video about this recently. Do you think about that aspect of it very much?
I do. I think about that, and I have some examples, if I may. Way back 100 years ago in 2010, I bought a house, and in order to use my VA home loan, I can't remember what the reason was, but whatever, there was a huge discount, no PMI or something, if I was married. But I wasn't married, and I was actually single. I didn't even have a girlfriend, and I made a post on Facebook, which I have printed out and saved, where I was like, this is crazy, weird idea, but if anybody wants to like get married on paper and like get in on this investment with me, I'm going to buy a house. You don't have to actually live with me. You don't have to be near me, but you become my wife. You own half this house. Sometime down the road, I'm going to sell it, and I give you half. And that was my pitch. And oh my God, there was 99 comments of like people calling me a complete idiot. You're just throwing your life away. You can't just, sanctity of marriage is too important, blah, 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 blah. And then one girl, her name was Tammy, was like, excuse me, let's talk some more. And then Tammy, weeks and months go by. We ended up getting real married. We got married, bought this house together. I just sold that 2 years ago to buy my Microvision, but I bought that house for $103,000. I sold it for $320,000. Tammy, for a signature 10 years ago, made whatever the math is, $90,000 of just cash she never did anything. She wasn't part of anything. Like, crazy idea, but it worked. And then, so kind of the same sort of thing. I bought some land. I actually bought a bunch of plots of land. I own a forest up in Volusia County. It's worthless, but it was part of this scheme I had. I was buying land all over the place, and one of the chunks of land I bought for $10,000 shot up to like $70,000, and so I sold that. And it's just like, it's the same thing. People are like, why are you just throwing your money away buying vacant land? That's stupid. You should, I don't know, buy your wife something nice. Like the advice was always also bad, like not a way to, like you're saying, increase your wealth at all. And of course, I've made a lot of errors. Specifically, 2022, I bought every one of the wrong things at every one of the wrong times. And so I lost. I bet that I don't know, investing wise with crypto, I'm down like $40,000 in 2022. But overall, with everything, I'm up like $200,000 or $300,000 because like some of the chances I took worked. And so, yeah, you gotta risk it to get the biscuit.
Risk it for the biscuit. Yep.
Risk it.
I agree.
But you have to have have some way to not be homeless if you're wrong 100% of the time. My wife makes way more money than me. So like, even if I chop off all 4 limbs on accident, I'm going to be totally fine. So I can take every single dollar I make, I could risk, and eventually I'll hit something and we're just never going to have to work again. But like I said earlier, all I want to do is work forever. So we'll just keep on going.
And to be fair, as someone who has watched a lot of your mad scientist things, chopping all 4 limbs off is a real possibility.
It's not a zero possibility. I have a couple of propane tanks. I'm going to be heating up. I wish it was really close by. I got these really big chrome balls that are like the size of this bell, and I'm going to heat them white hot and drop them into different things to see what happens. I did that a long time ago. It wasn't popular. I feel like it'd do better now on reels, but that's just part of my mad scientist scheme. And then I'm going to talk about things that happen. So like, for instance, when you get steel to 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit, 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit, it's no longer magnetic. Magic. It's just really interesting and something you didn't know. And that's how blacksmiths of days of yore would use a magnet to know when their steel is hot enough to dunk it in the thing to make it hard. Fun fact. One of the many things you're going to learn at the Space Design Warehouse going into the future.
I did know that fact because I watched it on a TikTok. So I feel like if you make that content, that would be a very good fit for that medium.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this has been a lot of fun, Nicholas.
This has been a lot of fun, Andy. I like talking to you. We should start a podcast.
Should do it. We should. If you liked listening to Nicholas, I will put links to every single thing in the description down below. And go click all those things. Subscribe to all this stuff. Follow him. Thanks for being on the podcast, Nicholas.
Thanks for tuning in so late at night, Andy. You see how dark it is in here?
Uh-huh.
Oh. I didn't even know these control all the right things. I don't want to hit anymore. I'm going to turn off my audio interface on accident.
I thought the ending was going to be you going complete darkness. That would be pretty good.
I know that for sure. Thank you for coming. Goodbye.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for listening. See you in the next one. Goodbye.